All right, everyone. So I want to talk to you guys about some of my thoughts on the pro-Palestine movement and the pro-Israel movement and how these two movements, to a certain extent, overlap with one another. So one thing that I have noticed about the pro-Palestine movement is that they don't like it. Not all of them, but a number of them don't like it when someone who has been pro-Israel tries to find common ground with them. So what I mean by that is you'll have these pro-Palestine activists who are talking about how Israel is committing a genocide and how Israel is doing atrocities, etc., etc., and they'll say that the occupation needs to end, that sort of talk. And then someone who has been pro-Israel for many years comes along and says, you know what? I actually agree with what you guys are saying. I agree that Israel is doing atrocities, Israel is doing genocide, and I can really no longer defend Israel. And what tends to happen is some of these pro-Palestine activists will say things like, oh, now you're saying that Israel is doing evil. Oh, what took you so long? Now you're criticizing Israel? It took you this long to figure this out? And they will meet these people with just viciousness. They will respond to these people with a very uncharitable way of talking. And it's almost like they don't want people to agree with them. It's almost like they want to have this closed movement where they're sort of the chosen ones who have figured things out. And then when someone comes along and says, you know, you're right about some things, Israel is doing evil, Israel is massacring people, they'll say, oh, well, you were pro-Israel for all these years, and now all of a sudden you have decided to say that Israel is doing terrible things? Really? And they will act with complete uncharitableness, and they will act with a very nasty attitude. And this is what I do not like about the pro-Palestine people. And the other thing that I've noticed about the pro-Palestine people is that someone can come to them and say, you know what, I've been pro-Israel for all these years, I've defended Israel for all these years, but I've realized that you guys are right when you say that Israel is doing atrocities. You guys are right. And what Israel is doing right now in Gaza is indefensible. I can't defend it. And these pro-Palestine people will say, well, I mean, you agree with us on this, but, you know, what do you think about what happened on October the 7th? And this person will say, well, you know, what happened on October the 7th was wrong. Killing civilians, be they Palestinian or Israeli, is wrong. And these pro-Palestine people will just reject these people, or they will insult these people because they don't agree with every single aspect of the pro-Palestine movement. So you have to agree with them on everything, right? You have to agree not only that Israel is doing atrocities, but you have to agree with what Hamas did on October the 7th. You have to make excuses for war crimes because they are done by Palestinians. When Palestinians do war crimes, you have to find excuses for those war crimes. You have to try to cover up for those war crimes. You have to try to belittle the gravity of those war crimes, those atrocities, because those atrocities were done by Palestinians. And really, this is where the pro-Israel people and the pro-Palestine people overlap ideologically. This is where they overlap. This is where they find common ground, really. Because if you go to the pro-Israel side, you will find this same sort of fanaticism, extremism. You will find this same sort of strategy of making excuses for atrocities or covering up for atrocities or just straight up being proud of atrocities. And you will find the same sort of cold-bloodedness. So I'll give you guys an example of this. Laura Loomer. Laura Loomer goes on to Twitter/X to complain that the United States has allowed Palestinian children from Gaza to enter the United States for medical treatment. We're talking about kids who need a prosthetic leg. We're talking about kids who need serious medical treatment. And she goes on to X and she says, why are these Gazan kids entering our country? Don't they know, doesn't America know that these are just going to be terrorists and they're all pro-Hamas and these kids are just going to be leeches on our system. They're going to be leeches on our welfare system. They're not going to contribute anything to our society. They're not going to add anything to our society. They're only going to be just drinking from the government's teat, and that's it. I mean, just all of this sick and evil way of talking. No compassion, no mercy, no nothing. Just complete callousness and evil and cruelty. And she's talking as if these kids are an existential threat to the United States. Really? The freaking Nazis couldn't defeat the United States. And you're telling me some kids with prosthetic legs are going to destroy America? You're telling me that kids who are missing limbs because of what Israel is doing to Gaza is all of a sudden are all of a sudden this existential threat to the United States? Really? Some kid who's missing a leg is an existential threat to America? Really? Really? Are you really this sick? I mean, it's so sickening. And then you say, hey, pro-Israel people, what the hell is this? Laura Loomer? Her name should be changed to Laura Looner because this bitch is a loon. She's a lunatic, and she is. She's an absolute loon. Laura Looner. And the pro-Israel people will act as if that they'll act as if she doesn't exist, or they'll make excuses for her behavior. They will support her behavior, whatever. But you see this sort of evil in the pro-Israel movement, lots of it. And it's growing. It is growing. And as the world becomes more and more antagonistic towards Israel, or as people become more and more disillusioned with Israel, the pro-Israel people are getting worse. They're becoming more emboldened. They're becoming more hostile. They're becoming more vicious in their rhetoric because their mentality is, well, the world hates us, so let's just become more evil and let's just take the mask off and just expose ourselves because who really gives a shit at this point, right? This is their mentality, more or less. But you see this sort of evil. And if, let's say, Palestinian terrorist kill a bunch of Israeli civilians, you will have pro-Palestine people go on X and say, you know what? Those Israelis are occupiers, and so therefore it's okay to kill them. And you have plenty of people in the pro-Palestine movement who are this way. And if someone like myself says, hey, what the hell are you doing? Why are you supporting the killing of civilians? They will make excuses. Well, those people are occupiers and this is all Palestinian land, so therefore they are invaders. And it doesn't matter if these Israeli civilians were just, I don't know, going out to get groceries or they were on a bus. Doesn't matter. They're occupiers. So according to international law or whatever, the Palestinians have a right to just butcher them. And so you see this sort of thing. So the reality is, if I become hardcore pro-Palestine, I have to defend atrocities. And if I become hardcore pro-Israel, I also have to defend atrocities. And this is where the pro-Israel and the pro-Palestine people have common ground. This is where they overlap. This is where they meet. They both meet at the point where they both have to defend the atrocities of their sides, of their own respective sides. You see this on Piers Morgan all the time. All the time. You have some guy, his name is Shabos Kestelbaum or whatever his name is, and that guy will sit there and cover up for Israel, and that's their jobs. That's this guy's job. You see it in Kufa. Oh my God, I was watching the Kufi event this year, Christians United for Israel event this year, and they had Mark Levine at the Kufi event, the Christians United for Israel. This is a Zionist Christian event. They have it every year. It's just insanity. It's heresy. It's satanic. It's all about revering and worshiping the synagogue of Satan and worshiping Israel. And this Mark Levine guy was talking about the destruction of Gaza. And he said, yeah, you know what? We destroyed them. Yeah. And he's all proud about the destruction of Gaza. And then you see the same thing with Mr. Huckabee, Mr. Mike Huckabee, who is the U.S. ambassador to Israel. He's a pastor, a Christian Zionist. He worships the synagogue of Satan, a member of the synagogue of Satan, really. And he was doing an interview with the Times of Israel. And the interviewer from the Times of Israel said, hey, what do you think about all these reports about Palestinians being shot and killed by Israeli soldiers outside of these aid distribution centers? And Mike Huckabee said, oh, well, they are people who have been shot. Yes, there have been cases of people shot and killed outside of these aid distribution centers. But that's because these people are charging after the IDF soldiers. And the IDF soldiers will give off warnings. They will make warning shots. They will tell them to stop running towards them. And they don't stop. And so that leaves these Israeli soldiers no choice but to shoot and kill these people. Because who knows, right? These Palestinians who are charging after them may be terrorists. Maybe they have knives. Maybe they have suicide belts on, whatever. And so that's why these IDF soldiers have to shoot these people sometimes. And Huckabee completely disregards the evidence, completely disregards the eyewitness testimonies from Israeli soldiers who say, no, we were ordered to shoot at unarmed people who are absolutely no threat to us. No, we were told to shoot at people who didn't have guns, who weren't shooting at us, who were absolutely no threat to us. And then Huckabee said, well, they're charging after the soldiers. That's why they have to shoot them. But then you read the eyewitness testimonies from IDF soldiers saying, no, we're ordered to shoot at these people as they're running away. We're ordered to shoot at these people as they're taking cover. Right? Huckabee completely disregards all these facts. Why? Because he's covering up for crimes. He's covering up for murder. Why? Because that's his religion. That's his cult. He's a member of a cult. When you find yourself making excuses or covering up for the crimes of your movement, regardless of the conspicuous evidence that proves that your movement is doing crimes, you are a member of a cult. It doesn't matter if it's a political movement. It doesn't matter if it's a church. It doesn't matter if it's whatever religion. It doesn't matter if it's a nonprofit. It doesn't matter if it's a corporate job. You have corporate cults. Just look at Japan. Japan is full of corporate cults. It doesn't matter if it's a think tank. When you find yourself covering up for crimes for your movement or for whatever entity that you are a member of, you are a member of a cult. It's a cult. And Huckabee is a member of a cult. It's a cult called Israel. And the journalist told Huckabee, hey, I wish that these soldiers would use non-lethal means to do crowd control. And Huckabee said, don't we all? With that sarcastic, sadistic rhetoric. And the journalist said, but they are methods. They are non-lethal methods of crowd control. Like, what are you talking about? And Huckabee said, well, what do you expect? Are you going to take them in with Girl Scouts? This is what Huckabee said. This is literally his method of argumentation. This is blatant covering up for crimes. And then you go to the pro-Palestine side, and you find people who will make excuses for, I don't know, bus bombings. And I did a video not too long ago on why I stopped defending Israel, because there was a time where I was defending Israel right in the beginning of this whole nightmare in Gaza because of October the 7th. I saw the videos of Israeli civilians being murdered by Palestinian terrorists, and I said, hey, this is wrong. That was literally my position. My position wasn't, hey, Israel is perfect. My position wasn't, hey, Israel is guilty of nothing wrong. My position was not, hey, Israel doesn't have a problem with extremism. In fact, even after October the 7th, I did videos on Israeli fanaticism, Jewish fanaticism, and what we are to expect. Even, listen, you can go back all the way to 2018, probably before that, and you will find videos that I've done, articles that I've done, criticizing Israel. So I've never really been a huge fan of Israel, but when October the 7th happened, I was very critical of what happened, because what happened was wrong. That was my position. And so I said in my video that after seeing what Israel has done to Gaza and seeing what Israel is still doing to Gaza, I really can't defend Israel anymore, because to defend Israel at this point would be to defend atrocities and massacres and war crimes. To defend Israel at this point would be to defend the indefensible. So at this point, there's nothing to defend. And what happened? A whole bunch of pro-Palestine people came to my channel, and instead of saying, hey, thank you, hey, you're criticizing Israel for doing evil things, that's great, you guys just started attacking me. Not all of you, but a lot of you guys started attacking me and started saying things like, oh, well, you're not in favor of terrorism. And I even had comments that were defending murder, and they were saying things like, Palestinians have the right to do whatever the hell they want to Israelis. And one guy even said that my morality and my principles and my compassion mean absolutely nothing and are completely meaningless and useless, because the Palestinians are in a position where morality doesn't apply to them. In other words, the Palestinians have the right to do whatever the hell they want. Shoot, kill, burn people alive, blow up buses, doesn't matter, because they're the occupied. Now, it doesn't surprise me that the person who made this comment has the Ukrainian flag for his profile pic, given what the Ukrainians did to the Poles back in the 1940s in the name of fighting an occupation, because Poland was occupying chunks of Ukraine, what was once Ukraine, and what is now parts of Ukraine. Poland was occupying or was ruling over large swaths of a Ukrainian population because of the fact that Poland defeated Ukraine in a war after World War I. And so you had these Ukrainian nationalists who were saying, well, the Poles are the occupiers and we're the occupied. And eventually the Ukrainians did the Volyn massacre, in which they slaughtered at least 100,000 Polish people. And so if you have the Ukraine flag as your profile pic and you love Ukrainian nationalism, then, well, it doesn't surprise me that you would believe that the occupied have the right to do whatever crimes they want, as long as their victims are members of the occupying nation. The thing is that going against extremism, no matter which side does it, is really the reason why Jesus was hated. The reason why Jesus was hated was because he refused to support the extremism of the Judeans. The Judeans were an occupied people. They were occupied by the Romans. And Jesus didn't say, hey, we have to fight against Roman occupation. Jesus did not say, hey, we need to support Barabbas. Jesus was killed because he refused to support people like Barabbas. Barabbas was a terrorist at the time of Christ who murdered a Roman soldier because he wanted to fight Roman occupation. And before Jesus was crucified, Pontius Pilate, the governor of Judea, asked the people in the crowd, which would they rather have live, Jesus or Barabbas, the terrorist who fought against the Roman occupation and murdered a Roman soldier? And the crowd said, we want Barabbas, free Barabbas. Now, why did they want Barabbas to be freed? Because Barabbas was a terrorist who murdered someone in the name of fighting the Roman occupation. And they wanted to have Christ crucified because Christ went against their extremism. Christ knew that the people of Judea were against the Romans, that the people of Judea hated the Gentiles. And Jesus said, you know, this Roman centurion who you hate so much has more faith than all the people in all of Jerusalem, than all the people in all of Israel. And that was really against the tribalism and the extremism of the Judean people. Jesus was combating the racism of the Judeans, even though the Judeans were being occupied by foreigners. Jesus went to the temple and he whipped out the merchants because they were selling merchandise in the court of the Gentiles, where the Gentiles were allowed to pray. And Jesus said, "Why have you prostituted my Father's house by making it into a den of thieves? Don't you know that this temple was built to be a house of prayer for all nations? You guys have made my Father's house into a den of thieves." And he whipped out the merchants. He was going against the racism of his people, even though his people were occupied by foreigners and they hated the Gentiles to a certain extent because they were members of the occupying nation. And so when it came down to Christ being killed, they said, "Free Barabbas, the terrorist, and kill Christ. We want the terrorist to be freed." And so all these people who support Israeli atrocities, all of these people who support crimes done by Palestinians in the name of fighting an occupation, are just like those people in the crowd, supporting a murderer and supporting the murder of someone because they are against their extremism. Bottom line, the people who support extremism, doesn't matter if it's against an occupation, doesn't matter if it's against another people because those people are members of the same nation that a terrorist organization belongs to, are the same people who would have said, crucify him, free Barabbas, because they have the mentality of Barabbas. Jesus did not support Barabbas. He didn't. Even though Barabbas was fighting an occupation, Jesus did not support him. Why? Because Barabbas, at the end of the day, was a murderer. And it doesn't matter if your cause is for a free Palestine. It doesn't matter if your cause is for a strong and secure Israel. It doesn't matter if your cause is for a reunited Ireland. It doesn't matter if your cause is for an independent Scotland. If your cause gives you this idea that you have the right to murder people, to murder innocent people, then your cause is not worth it. Your cause really is not worth following. Because your cause is trying to require me to murder innocent people, and that is something that I refuse to do, and that is something that I refuse to support. If your cause says that murdering innocent people is justified, then I want nothing of it. The reason why I'm criticizing Israel is not because I am this pro-Palestine guy who's going to walk around with a keffiyeh, even though my father was born in the West Bank. The reason why I am critical of Israel is because Israel is doing evil. The reason why I'm critical of Israel is the same reason why I'm critical of Hamas. Because Hamas did evil, does evil, Israel does evil, and it's doing evil right now. And I refuse to defend it. And if your group requires you to defend evil, requires you to defend murder, the murder of innocent people, then you're a member of a cult. And you're not really partaking in your movement because of morality, because of compassion, because of moral principles. You're partaking in your movement because you're dedicated to it for a fanatical reason, and you are a member of a cult. Anyway, that's enough. I've said enough already. You guys just heard some theology. God bless.